Mike Witzgall.
He's coming, Judge. It's just a little slow with his
Okay.
cases.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this witness was previously sworn outside your presence. He is under oath, so you may have a seat, sir.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen,
Would you introduce yourself to the jury, please?
yeah. Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Witzgall. I'm a retired police officer. My career is with Dallas, and I'm here as an expert witness in training of law enforcement.
And what do you do these days, Mr. Witzgall?
These days, sir,
Yes, sir.
I am retired. I sold the law enforcement business, and I am now a gentleman farmer.
Does that mean you're broke?
Most of the time, yes, sir.
Would you tell me what your career in law enforcement is, please? Share that with the jury.
All right, law enforcement. I started with Dallas in 1988. I graduated from the academy in 1989, and as typical, I spent several years on patrol, and then I switched to Dallas SWAT. I was with the elite SWAT teams for several years, and then I ended up getting hurt pretty bad, so I went back to patrol. Which time in 1998 I was forced into medical retirement, and that injury eventually led to the loss of my left leg. And then I started a training company strictly teaching SWAT, hostage rescue, active shooter, amongst other subjects.
And so, how long have you been teaching, or how long did you teach SWAT, hostage rescue, and active shooter?
22 years.
And what is the difference between SWAT training, hostage rescue training, and active shooter training?
Ladies and gentlemen, it all blends. It really does. Subjects that you learn in hostage rescue also will transfer across to active shooter. The difference being active shooter training is almost an exclusive of patrol officers, guys that are out working, guys and gals that are out working the field constantly. SWAT, you're off to the side a little bit until you're called.
So an active shooter training is for the people that are going to be first responders. Is that
Absolutely.
the best
Yes,
way
sir.
to say it?
Yes.
And did you develop an active shooter training program for Texas peace officers?
I did. The curriculum is
Yes,
what you're
sir.
speaking of. Yes, sir.
Could you tell us about the training that you developed?
First and foremost, everything is as much hands-on as we can possibly make it. So it's 25% lecture, PowerPoint lectures, and 75% hands-on out in the field doing drills, scenarios, I based this curriculum back in my military days. I was trained in hostage rescue and how to clear an embassy, because back in the 70s, a lot of people don't know this, but we lost a lot of embassies. Embassies and schools, there's a lot of similarities to them: long hallways, offset rooms, big rooms, classrooms and stuff. So that's what I based the curriculum on at the start. Now, when I was with Dallas, my sergeant, Tom Shelton, far-reaching, we went into schools long before Columbine, and we did what would be now called active shooter training. We did this at Sunset, I think that was in middle school, I don't remember, South Oak Cliff High School, and several other elementary schools.
And so you have decided to divide it 75%, 25%.
Yes, sir.
Why is that?
It does no good for an officer to be trained in something unless, of this nature, okay, of this nature, to be trained in this type of thing without hands-on, to develop almost an automatic response. I'm sure you've heard the term muscle memory and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. You cannot do that in a pure classroom setting.
And so you spend 75% of the time in the field.
Yes, sir.
And what does in the field mean?
We very infrequently, ladies and gentlemen, were we able to actually get into a school, because a lot of times schools were running at the time. So we had false walls that we put up, long hallways, 100 feet long. We'd have rooms off to the side. So we would be doing drills on what we could simulate for a school. Now, we also did in this curriculum, the 75% part, we did, because we've had active shooters in churches. Okay? I know people kind of look at that in defense of God's word, but not in defiance. All right? We went to nightclubs when we could find one. We went to movie theaters. Pretty much any place that there have been an active shooter, sir, that we could get into.
Does that include open fields?
Yes, sir, it does.
And how many hours was this training?
The total training, sir,
Yes, sir.
40 hours.
We noticed that there's other active shooter training for 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you distinguish an 8-hour course?
8 hours isn't enough to do much of anything, sir, other than classroom work. They might be able to do some hands-on, but in my opinion, this is just strictly my opinion, it's greatly deficient in any type of what we would call developing muscle memory.
Now, did you have a title for your course, the 40-hour course?
Yes, sir, it was active shooter, immediate response.
And let's go over both of those terms. What does active shooter mean?
Active shooter, an uncontrolled situation where there is an assailant, either, forgive me, in a school, outside of a school, at a church, outside, moving around, it didn't matter. All right, so that is an active shooter. The whole situation is out of control in that moment. Okay, the immediate response.
And when you say out of control,
Please.
in the shooter part, is that just obvious? It's out of control because there's active shooting?
Yes, yes, sir.
I hate to be too
No.
fundamental, but the point is there's shooting going on.
Yes, sir.
And does it also include that there's people in danger?
Yes, sir.
And that's the nature of that?
That is the nature, pardon me, that's the nature of the beast.
Okay. And then the second part of the title of your course was what?
Immediate response. What this means, when there's an active shooter, we cannot sit around and wait. And most of law enforcement, from the day you are in the academy, they tell you never do anything by yourself. Never ever. Never make a traffic stop without somebody coming by to back you up. In an active shooter situation, because of the lethality, the nature of the whole thing, we have to act, which can mean acting completely and wholly alone.
And that's what immediate response means?
Yes, sir.
So in an active shooter situation, And I'm just asking about what you trained
Yes,
in
sir.
the 40-hour course. Active shooter situation, immediate response, if a first responder is there. What is your training as to whether they should wait for backup?
We've got to stop the killing. There's no other way I can say that, folks, okay? You can't wait for backup. I know there are curriculums out there, sir, that teach, always wait for 2 or 3 more guys. In my opinion, and the way I train people, you don't have time to wait. You've got to make a move.
And is that what solo entry is?
It can be, yes, sir.
And when you say you got to make a move, where do you make the move to? What
Well,
do your training teach?
Depends on the circumstances, okay? Outside, if it's a big park, all right? I know where the bad guy's been. By bodies, by blood trails. I know where his direction might be going. You do that by auditory sounds, gunfire. My job then is I've got to get in front of him to keep him from entering soft targets.
What's a soft target?
These days, pretty much anything, sir. I'm sorry. Schools, churches, hospitals,
Why is it called a soft target?
because there's no defense. They don't have, most of the time, they don't have security guards.
When you're talking about they, who are you speaking
I'm
of?
sorry, the ISD. I know many ISDs have police departments now, but for many years they did not. Hospitals might have some security. They hire off-duty cops, but it's never enough. And you can never put everybody, you don't have enough people to put at every door.
I guess by soft target, are you saying a target which people can be
Easily,
victims of an active shooter?
yes, sir, easily victims of an active shooter.
Is that why time is of the essence?
Yes, sir.
And what does gunfire have to do with what your action is?
Okay, if I'm a responding officer, depending on where I am at, I hear gunfire, I need to march to the sound of gunfire, and I'm heading that direction. All right, I'm not just hanging back. If I'm in a situation to where I know that there's been an active shooter, I see all the evidence, blood holes in the wall and stuff, then I follow that evidence also.
So if you get there a little late, you may see evidence of the active shooting that's already occurred.
Yes,
or
sir.
has been occurring.
Yes, sir.
But if you get there before there's bodies or blood trails, is gunfire important to you?
It's critical.
And critical, it means what?
I need to move toward that gunfire.
What if you're alone?
I need to move to that gunfire, sir.
If you are the first responder, is moving toward gunfire the primary objective then?
Yes, sir.
Is it also important to tell other officers where you are?
It's all happening at the same time. Now, this is basic police. I did not teach this. They should know this. I get out. If I'm the responding officer, I'm on my radio. I'm moving to where I hear gunfire. I am telling my dispatch or anybody that can hear me, other people on the radio, I'm telling them my location. I'm telling them my direction of travel. And if I have information on the suspect, I'm telling the suspect information, clothing description, hair description. I'm telling them I'm marching to gunfire. I've heard gunfire in this area. Might be around the corner, might be in a park way off to the side. I've got to get there, and I need backup. I won't kid you. I desperately need backup, but I also know I can't wait.
And so when you hear gunfire, there's two objectives. One is go to the gunfire. The other is to tell other people.
Yes, sir.
Notify them either for backup as well as to notify them where the problem is.
Yes, sir.
Which of those takes priority?
Boy, because we are trained never to operate alone, my internal police officer says, no, tell them the information, tell them, but I know I've got to get to the gunfire. And you can do it simultaneously.
What does that mean?
At the same time, I can run to gunfire. I can move with one hand on my weapon or my weapon out and on the radio.
Okay, so it's not an either or.
No, sir, it is not.
And ultimately, you have a room full of police officers that you're training.
Yes, sir.
What is your ultimate goal for these officers?
Could you be more specific, sir?
Sure. Not only, well, let me ask it this way. When you run to gunfire, do you do that recklessly?
Never. You can move tactically.
And what does tactically mean?
Okay, I'll use the example of an open area. All right, hopefully there's trees, other things that I can move to leapfrog from one to the other. All right, I'm doing it fast, and I'm not doing it with reckless abandon. I'm moving tactically. That's what we talk about. Yeah, if it's a completely open field, well, I'm in a lot of danger. I know I'm in a lot of danger. So
You still move to the gunfire?
I'm still moving to the gunfire.
And you talked about trees. Is that this concept of cover and concealment?
Yes, sir.
And explain that for us.
Cover is what protects you from bullets. Concealment is what hides you from the bullets.
And so as you teach going to the gunfire, you teach them to do it as safely as possible.
As safely as possible, yes, sir.
And that's by using any cover or
Any
concealment.
cover that you can find.
Is that part of what these exercises are all about?
Yes, sir.
To go through that? Now, fear is part of this active shooter, right? There's a threat.
Yes, sir.
And does your curriculum cover that issue?
We
That issue of
discuss, yes, sir. I'm sorry I cut you off. We discuss how to handle fear. Everybody's afraid. And if you're not afraid of gunfire, you're a little bit of a knucklehead. I've been in the military. I was under fire many times. All right? Yeah, I was scared. Same thing with being a cop. But you have to learn to fight through the fear.
Do you teach all the officers in your class how to fight through the fear?
We discuss it, sir. That's not something you do in the field, but we teach them, really to fight through the fear. Take a few deep breaths and focus. There's nothing complicated about it.
Take a couple of deep breaths
Yes, sir.
and focus.
And focus.
And is fear part of that fight or flight? Is
It
that
is.
part of what you teach?
Yes, sir. We discuss fight or flight syndrome.
And what is that?
It is, excuse me, fight or flight. Your response, your internal response, when you are confronted with something that could harm you, you go into fight or flight. It's a massive adrenaline dump, all right, that your body says, man, we need to get out of here. And there are physiological changes in your body that can make the difference for you. For instance, your heartbeat can be normal. I don't know what your heartbeat is normally, but it can go up to 200 beats a minute within not even a second. That's part of fight or flight. And you have to fight through it because your natural reaction is, man, I got to get away from this. And we can't do that as police officers.
So as part of the lecture, how to fight, how to work through that.
We discuss that, yes, sir.
So you expose the officers to that information,
Yes.
knowing that it's a potential,
Knowing that it will happen, sir.
not a potential.
It's not a potential, it's a certainty.
And so now could we move to the field?
Yes, sir.
So how many days do you say stay in the field out of this 40-hour work week?
Well, I mean, every day is 25, 75.
Oh, every day?
Every day.
Okay.
Fridays were usually a little bit of a short day because when we say it's 40 hours, I guarantee you those officers were out there with me for about 50 or 60 hours. All right, 40 hours is all that we can give them credit for.
So that's the basic then?
Yes, sir. Well, no, sir, the active shooter.
Okay. And then this is where you set up different scenarios.
As best we can, yes, sir. What we would do is we'd set up the panels for the long hallways, about 100 feet, sometimes longer. We'd have rooms that were enclosed or at least half enclosed. We had shooting dummies, and we would move these dummies in around the room and things like that. So there would actually be something. Occasionally we put an instructor in there, but we use tremendous amount of airsoft, and holy cow, that stuff hurts. And
What is airsoft?
What's that, sir?
Airsoft, what is
Airsoft. Airsoft is like a BB gun. All right, it's a biodegradable BB that it'll go away after a while, but they hurt, they sting, and all my instructors have to wear, and students too, when we're doing these drills, they have to wear protective gear.
So you make it as lifelike as you
As
possibly
realistic as we can. There are things, sir, that I can simulate, emulate, and there are certain things, even in training, I cannot. It's impossible.
What do you mean by that?
Odors, sound, the smell of gunfire, blood.
So training, you're not going to be firing off weapons.
I did not do live fire. That's with real ammunition and stuff. That was by choice because it was actually, sir, a liability issue. But we used tens of thousands of BBs in a school.
Okay. And as part of your training, open areas, did you train in open areas or
Yes, sir.
have a scenario of open areas?
We tried sometimes. We were very limited with the amount of the open area that we could use. Uvalde, we used a park, but there were people in the park, so we couldn't really do scenario-based training other than have somebody, an instructor, walking around, and the officers would have to maneuver into position to neutralize that threat.
And in the training, the 75%, did that include solo entry by officers?
Yes, sir, it did.
And did it include multiple?
Yes, sir.
So it's not just training for a group, how they should tactically move together, but also for one person.
Yes, sir. Again, 75-25, and I don't mean to be so redundant with that, but this is crucial. So many schools, even tactical schools, are death by PowerPoint. All right? But again, there's no way to learn. There's no muscle memory in what I'm talking about. In places like, anywhere we trained, whether it was a church, a park, we did bus takedowns, everything starts with one man. And after I am satisfied, which sometimes happens, all right, I'm satisfied, then we move on to 2-man, 3-man, 4-man.
And specifically, did you do this 40-hour training in Uvalde, Texas?
Yes, sir.
And the defendant, Adrian Gonzales, did he attend that training?
Yes, sir.
And when people attend your training, they have to sign in, is that correct?
Every day, yes, sir.
And you have records of that?
Yes, sir, I do.
And is it once a day or twice a day?
Now, TCL says twice a day now.
Okay. And so when you have those rosters, it indicates not only did somebody sign up to take your class, but they were there.
They were there every
twice a
day. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And as they're going through the training, what is the purpose of photographing?
All right, we took approximately 300 pictures every school. Actually, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we took about 600 pictures. I'd have to go back through after the training ended and get rid of all the ones that were blurry. And I'm nobody's good photographer. My finger would be in the way half the time. We used a big Nikon camera for this with a telephoto lens. A lot of times, one is a matter of record. It helps me if I am subpoenaed. All right, I can go back, look through the pictures, and yes, the student, I can see him on this day at this time. Also, sir, the students like the pictures. We always made them of disc, or as things progressed later on, I was able to email them to the students. I'm no technical wizard, so I had to learn that one.
May I approach your honor?
Yes.
Exhibits 916, 917, 918, 19, and 20.
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize those photographs?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm wondering. Yes, sir. I'm wondering why he doesn't have eye protection on in that picture, but okay. This is at the stadium. No, I'm sorry. I should. Yes, sir. Sorry. This is at the
I
football
don't need you to
stadium.
describe this. I just need you to say you identify those as being your photographs.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
State offers exhibits 916 through 920.
Mr. Turner, you can resume your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to kind of close this out, the name of your enterprise was,
Charlie Mike Enterprises.
so that's the name of the business that put on active shooter training.
Yes, sir.
And is that the same for Alert? Is the name of the company that puts on active shooter training?
That is their name, yes.
But they're associated with the Texas State University.
I'm sorry, sir, please say it again.
Are they associated with Texas State University?
Yes, they are, sir, as far as I know.
And you just looked at state's exhibits 916 through 920, is that correct? Just before the lunch break.
Yes, sir.
State offers exhibits 916 through 920.
That's fine, no objection, Judge.
They're admitted.
Showing you state's exhibit 916, can you explain to us what this depicts and who it depicts?
This appears to be Officer Gonzales. We are doing, if I'm seeing this correctly, sir, this is usually the first few minutes of training. We're learning to walk, move, and shoot.
And what does walk, move, and shoot mean?
Well, from a stable firing position, affectionately it's known as the Groucho. Your weapon is up, all right, shoulders, elbows are tucked in, and you're not walking straight up, you're not walking super bent knee either. It's a nice, steady firing platform. If you walk and shoot standing up, your weapon's going to be doing this, or possibly even this. All right, so this particular way to walk, that's what that teaches.
And state's exhibit 917.
Same drill, sir, or it may be another part of a drill that I can't really tell. Looks like the background is fairly dark, so it may be after hours.
And on state's exhibit 916, it was Mr. Gonzales was in short sleeves, and in this example there is at least one sleeve covered, is that correct?
Appears to be so, yes.
Does that indicate it's a different drill?
Well, its clothing doesn't really indicate it, sir. It's just what is going on in that particular drill. But it is a different picture and a different drill, yes.
Okay. State's exhibit 918. Is this also Adrian Gonzales?
Yes, sir, it appears to be so.
And what is this drill?
This drill, we're at a football stadium, ladies and gentlemen, and teaching the guys how to take down an active shooter, like at a high school football game. In this case, I can't really tell how high up the assailant is. Sometimes we put them way up at the top, in the middle of the bleachers. Either way, it teaches the officer how to move up steps without falling on his face. You can see his, it appears to be his left hand slightly touching the guardrail. That doesn't make contact again, so you know that your footing is sure.
And state's exhibit 919.
Okay, those are the false panels. You can see the walls. In this case, these walls are like about 7 feet tall. This is known as the heavy head. You can see the two officers. They actually would be moving down a hallway. All right, you can see the officer, just barely make out the officer in the rear. That is rear security. He checks back as we're moving, as we're progressing. Now, a couple schools of thought. You're either marching to the sound of gunfire, like we talked about earlier, right? Okay, or you know what room he's in, and you're moving toward that particular room. In this case, Officer Gonzales is checking the hallway, a little bit back and forth, and his wingman in this case, is covering deep into the hallway.
So this is if you have multiple officers responding at the same time.
If you're lucky and you have them, yes, sir.
And State's Exhibit 920, is this also Officer Gonzales?
It appears to be so, yes, sir.
And when I say Officer Gonzales, are we speaking about the same Adrian Gonzales who's at the far end of the table?
Yes, sir, we are.
And when was this course taken?
If I recall right, April 2018. I can check my notes again if you wish me to.
That's the witness.
Mr. Witzgall, my name is Nico LaHood. I'm one of the lawyers that represents Mr. Gonzales. We've never met before, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Have you testified before? Have
In
you
what-
testified before?
In what manner, sir? Here or?
No, not in this trial. In
Well,
any
as a
trial.
police officer, yes, sir.
Yeah. Have you ever testified as an expert before?
No, sir.
Okay. So this is the first time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you understand cross-examination. I'm going to ask you questions. If you don't understand my question, then please ask me to repeat it, okay?
Yeah, I understand, sir.
Okay. So you gave us some of your experience. You served 3 years in SWAT with the Dallas PD,
Yes, sir.
and then you served our country in the Marines.
In the Marine Corps,
And thank
yes.
you for your service, by the way. And so you did, I think you said you used kind of your experience in embassy sweeping. to-
Embassy clearing.
Clearing, but you were sweeping a building. I'm sorry, I'm using a term of art, right?
Understood.
So embassy clearing to formulate this curriculum,
Yes, sir.
right? And I think you alluded to it on direct examination. Your curriculum is, in your opinion, a proper way to handle active shooting or some type of involvement tactics with these officers that you're training, correct?
It is, sir.
And you said it on direct that other experts may have different opinions and different curriculums.
That is correct.
Your curriculum is just one way of doing it.
One of perhaps many.
Perhaps, yes, one of many ways of doing it, correct? And so one of many. And so I want to talk about that because you're testifying that Mr. Gonzales took one of your courses, correct?
He took multiple courses from me. Active shooter was just one of them.
When you say multiple courses, as in two?
He took basic SWAT, advanced SWAT, hostage rescue, active shooter.
Okay, so 4.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and are they all 40 hours?
No, sir. All the hostage rescues were 60 plus.
60 plus on hostage rescue. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But on active shooter, it's a 40-hour
It's only 40 hours.
Okay. And you say only 40 hours in all fairness, because have you heard the term the 10,000 hour rule to be an expert in anything?
Yes, sir. We have another saying, 5 minutes to dress like one, 5 years to be one.
That's right. Okay. Say that again, because I might use it later. But
5 minutes to dress like one, 5 years to be one.
fair enough. 5 minutes to look like one, dress like one, but 5 years to be one. And so that kind of coincides with this 10,000 hour rule, right?
Yes, sir.
Give or take. And so you use some phrases, and they're general terms, concepts of you can't sit around and wait when there's an active shooter, correct?
Correct.
We have to stop the killing, right? And I want to talk about that because there's also another concept of we cannot use reckless abandonment either.
I'm sorry, yes.
Right, it's okay. Take your time. Because if an officer uses reckless abandonment, no one is protected by that type of behavior from an officer.
It does no good to get yourself killed while you're trying to stop the killing, sir.
And you've heard the term, and I don't mean to sound crude, but a dead cop is no good to anybody,
That is correct.
right? And so if an officer is not using, as I think your term, is not using tactically, is not moving tactically, then obviously that officer is not going to be as beneficial to the circumstance.
That would be correct.
And you also stated on direct examination that we are trained to never operate alone.
You start learning that in the academy.
Right. And that's an overarching theme in law enforcement, that obviously it's safer to not work alone and to have backup. I think you used the term wingman.
Yes.
Right? Is that correct?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
It's okay. And so when we talk about, you can't sit around and wait and you have to stop the killing, those are, if we're using an analogy, those are 30,000-foot concepts, but then we have to drill down to how do we accomplish that,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
Because if I told you, if I was your football coach, and I told you, may I call you Mike in my example?
Yes, sir,
If
please.
I'm your coach, I'm going to call you Mike, not Mr. Witzgall. Mr. Witzgall. Mike, go win the game. Your response would be, all right, coach, how? Right? There needs to be a how.
I'm sorry, sir. With my coaches, it would have been yes, sir, and I moved out. But I do understand and
understand.
agree with what you are saying.
You're the exception to the rule. Okay, so but all I'm saying is in normal people's minds, it would be a coach how, right? And so when we look at some of these trainings, the how is really just tactics. It's tactics combined with mindset. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir, I would think so.
Because if someone tells you to stop the killing, how? How do you stop the killing?
Okay, sir, I've got to close with, I've got to maneuver up and neutralize whatever's causing the killing.
Okay, so when you say you close up, that depends on the circumstance, right? A lot of people get frustrated with lawyers when they ask them questions and the lawyer's answer is, well, it depends. Depends on your circumstance, it depends on the law, it really depends on fact-specific scenarios. So it depends matters in tactics as well. Would you agree with that?
Circumstances, yeah,
Right?
Yes.
And you can't train for every circumstance.
that would be impossible.
It would be impossible. And so what you can do is create an environment of training where you create a mindset and you give them some set of skills to hopefully apply in a circumstance, right?
Correct.
You know the difference between training and conditioning? And I'll define it better for you.
Well, define it,
I don't
please.
mean physical conditioning. You can train for something and then you can be conditioned in what you train for. Example, I box, I do martial arts, and so someone can train how to punch, but everyone looks good on the heavy bag and the mitts, but then you get into sparring and we test your skills. Does that make sense?
I follow.
Okay, and so it's called stress inoculation. Have you heard of that term?
I have.
Will you please explain to the jury what stress inoculation is?
Okay, in my opinion,
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
what
In
I
your
have
opinion.
understood
Yes,
to
sir.
be, it is when you're under stress or there is, okay, I'm going to have to use law enforcement, someone is shooting at you, all right? You're under great stress. We talked about fight or flight a little bit earlier. Your heart goes from normal beat up to 200 beats, about that fast, all right? When you train correctly, you train hard, inoculation, if you will, all right? It is what I talked about earlier, muscle memory. Now, muscles do not have memory, all right? It's part of your brain, all right? And what it does is you do something so much and so often, or respond so much and so often. It's like this young lady typing. She can look away and she's typing. She's done it so much and so often, and I need to, dare I say, under stress here in the courtroom.
When I'm talking, it's under stress. Yes, sir.
Yo, I'm following you. All right.
So my point is, do you think she's probably trained more than 40 hours to do what she's doing at her level?
Well, no doubt.
No doubt. And so an example of stress, I have permission to stand for the judge previously. So a stress inoculation would be a difference between if I were to shoot at a target and you're showing me proper hand grip, high on the tang, this part is the tang or the beaver tail, right? I'm gripping properly. We'll talk about hand grip in a second. I'm shooting, pop, pop, and I'm putting off rounds. 2 rounds within 10 seconds is a pretty easy shot, right? 2 rounds
Yes,
in
sir.
10 seconds. I mean,
Yes,
that's
sir. Yes,
easy,
sir.
right? Anybody. Now, stress inoculation would be if I holstered my weapon, and you remember what horses are in basketball, where you run up and down the court?
I never played basketball.
Okay, well,
sir.
you know, if you had me sprint.
Sir, I'm following you. Go ahead.
Let's say you had stress inoculation. Example would be I'm holstered, I'm in my uniform with my vest and my boots, and I'm running up and down 3 times. I come back to the same, as I'm coming up, I'm drawing my weapon, and then I'm
You're engaging.
and now I'm engaging, but I have this stress
Yes.
response because I'm breathing heavy because I just put myself through some stress physically, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so that's an example of stress inoculation, and that matters.
Yes.
Because then you're not only training your body, but you're also training your mind, your focus, your attention, right?
Correct.
You're also trying to prepare the officer for tunnel vision, because that's just normal under a stressful situation. Officers that normally, like right now, Jason used this example with another witness. Right now, I can see Mr. Turner, I can see his investigators, I definitely see all the jurors, and the bailiff and the judge. I'm not focused on them, I'm focused on you, but under stress, my focus comes like this. And if you're my threat, I'm just focused on you, and I won't see all these other things.
Yes, sir. What you're describing is affectionately known as tunnel vision.
Yes, sir. That's exactly what I was talking about. And they've heard about tunnel vision. There's also auditory exclusion, where I'm listening for things, but under stress, I won't hear normal things, and I exclude certain things that I don't think are relevant to my mind. Essentially.
Essentially.
Okay. There's perception distortion. Under stress, what I perceive is happening may not really be what's happening, right? Is that correct?
Say that again, sir.
Perception distortion. Stress can make you distort what you think you're being perceived. And that's why officers train under stress, so they can make the right decisions.
That is correct.
Okay. And there's also time distortion. Under stress, something that took 5 minutes may seem like 3 seconds to me, or 5 seconds.
Yes, sir.
Okay. These are just general concepts, by the way.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when someone is coming into a course, is it fair to say that you make an assessment of the people before they go into your course? Muzzle discipline.
That is what, sir,
Yes, sir.
the first day,
Yes,
that
sir.
slide that you showed just a moment ago, all right, and I talked about doing the Groucho. That is what that is for. Learning to move and shoot. The stress is in the class already. I'm not standing there yelling and screaming at officers. We don't need to do that.
Sure.
All right?
But you're making an assessment of the officers because you're going to be working, even though you're just using these not real weapons, right?
They're soft weapons.
They're soft weapons. But still, you fight like you train. You've heard that term, right?
That is correct.
And you're trying to do muscle memory and condition yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at muzzle control. Can I sweep you, Graham? No. Okay. So if you're going to see if officers are doing this kind of stuff, or if they're not controlling, having discipline of the muzzle, whether it's a rifle, a long rifle, or a handgun, you're assessing them. You're assessing their grip, how they're holding. You're assessing whether their hand is a combat grip. A lot of people, nobody shoots like this anymore, right? The teacup and saucer.
I can't see what
Well,
you're
I know. I don't
doing,
like to even point a fake gun at people. So it's like this. No one does this anymore, right?
No, they shouldn't.
And remember, people used to do the weaver in the old days.
Weaver and the isosceles.
And
yes.
now it's more isosceles where you're squared up,
Yes.
right? And so you're assessing all those things on people before you start this course, because you're going to take them further into tactics, right?
That is correct.
And so that's what we saw on State's Exhibit. One of the State's Exhibits. I think you were saying, maybe State's Exhibit 16 or 17, that you might have been assessing them.
Here,
Yes,
all
sir.
right, what you cannot see in this picture is, as a rule, hard rule, I always had an instructor walking around looking at his or her position. All right, in this picture, you know what, this might have been in the theater because it's dark.
Yes, sir.
Behind him. All right, my instructors and I are roving. We're watching everybody make entry and how they're moving.
And instructor to student ratio matters as well.
Critical.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And matter of fact, and please don't take this as a personal attack. You noticed something about your own training. You noticed somebody without glasses.
I saw that,
you picked
and
it
one of
up.
my instructors should have picked that up right away.
So take it easy on them. But that's something that you would have, if you would have seen that, then you would have said, "Oh, that is not acceptable."
Ladies and gentlemen, I probably would have hit the ceiling.
Right. Give me 1 second, sir.
Please.
And so you testified earlier that you have hundreds of pictures of your students.
I had hundreds of pictures, yes, sir.
Right. And the pictures that we see here, and we're going to get into the training in a second, but the pictures we see here, every one of these pictures, what weapon system is Mr. Gonzales using?
M4, that's an airsoft M4. Essentially, ladies and gentlemen, a BB gun with it's magazine fed, spring loaded. The gun itself is battery operated.
But what is it simulating? It's
An M4.
An M4, or similar to people that don't know, maybe like kind of like an AR-15.
Essentially the same weapon, sir.
Right. And so none of these pictures have Mr. Gonzales operating a handgun.
We tried very hard. We had airsoft handguns.
Yes, sir.
And to transition, the hardest thing to teach is with the rifles. They should be experts in their handguns, as it already is.
You said transition. So what you mean by transition is that if somebody has a rifle, and then for whatever reason this gets jammed, and we've heard testimony that can happen, right? Weapons can jam, and you're taught with a handgun to tap and rack it and try to get it back into work, into service. If this jams or you run out of rounds, you may have to discard that and go to your secondary weapon.
You just drop it and go to your handgun.
Right.
Conversely, if your handgun drops and you've got an AR, you transition to that.
Yes, sir. But in these pictures we've seen, your students are training with a weapon system like this, with an AR-15 or an M4.
Yes, sir, because that is the hardest one to train on.
I understand, but that's the one you recommend somebody handling a school shooting or an active shooter. You prefer a weapon like this, correct?
I would prefer it.
And so, right, you have to do what you have to do. But I'm just saying, if you had a choice, if we had an AR-15 here and a Glock or your weapon, your pistol, a choice, and I asked you which one would you prefer in a gunfight, which one would you pick?
The AR.
Without hesitation, right?
Yeah.
And so all of the courses are dealing, they're training with the AR-15. I understand the reasoning because it's harder to train with, but that's what these courses are entailing. They entail using an AR-15 or an M4 as a primary weapon.
Essentially correct. However, so there is a however with this.
Okay, I don't mind.
I should not have to train people on their duty handgun.
I understand.
All right. Now,
You're assuming they're coming in with some basics.
yeah, but we do use, and forgive me, I don't know if we used it in Adrian's class.
Sure.
We do have airsoft handguns that we make them go back and forth. I don't know, I'm sorry, I've slept since then. I don't know if we did that in his class.
And even though you can't use live rounds, well, you could use live rounds if you had a shoot house, correct? An alert has a shoot house.
They do, my personal opinion on actual shoot houses, they are extremely dangerous and people have been injured.
And then you said your personal opinion, correct? Because other people have different opinions.
They love them.
Right. But just as an example, a shoot house is an actual house, and there's places where the supervisors can observe from above, and they're watching teams actually move and breach. And we'll talk about a center-fed room versus a corner-fed room, and transitioning to their weapons and slicing the pie and doing all kinds of tactics with live rounds.
Yes, sir.
Not against another human being, against targets, but they're using live rounds so they can. The loudness inside of a building is different, right? Mm-hmm. You understand there's echoing,
Yes.
and can distract somebody to try to figure out where that shooting is coming from. Is that a fair statement?
It can be, yes.
Okay, and I'm not criticizing your curriculum. I'm just saying that your curriculum didn't involve that.
No, sir, mainly because we were a mobile training team.
Yes, sir.
And I can't carry a shoot house with me. However, there were places, Asheville, North Carolina, that I didn't do this as Charlie Mike, I did this when I was teaching with Texas A&M, that they had a really nice shoot house. Down at Texas A&M, they had, at the time, a nice shoot house.
Yes, sir.
All right, so yes. But with Charlie Mike Enterprises, as a rule, no.
I understand. Because you can't take a mobile shoot house with you. It has to be set. But also, and again, this is not a criticism, it's just a reality. You didn't have furniture in your curriculum to
Actually, what we do, sir, is we fill the room with boxes, and that
Okay.
represents, it's things, anything, it doesn't have to be furniture, anything that an officer can trip over or bang into. All right, we set these boxes up in the room, and there's a lot of them, and if you touch it, it's a do-over. We escalated up to that level, sir.
Would you agree that me running into a box right here is different than if I'm moving quickly and I take this corner and I peel off wrong and I catch this corner? It'd be different if I hit this big table versus a box.
It's gonna hurt.
Right, it's going to hurt. And so that kind of stress, all I'm saying is, again, because your curriculum is mobile, and I understand completely, you just didn't have the luxury of having furniture as well.
That is correct.
Okay. Now, and there is something called as marking cartridges, right? You've heard of marking cartridges?
You mean like sim rounds?
Yes, sir. SEM is
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So
I know
marking
what they're-
cartridges is the general term. You have FX and you have SEM rounds. They're the brands. Is
There
that
are
fair?
different ones, ACT and several. Go
Right.
ahead.
And so marking. Will you explain to the jury what marking cartridges are?
Well, if I understand what you're talking about, it's almost like a paintball round that marks where you hit on a target. You guys have seen paintball, I'm assuming.
Yes, they have.
All right. Yeah, splat of paint. You know where you're hitting. You know where you're aiming is the goal in this.
And so a lot of people can use these marking cartridges, or we'll call them SEM rounds, even though that's the brand. Marking cartridges, because then you can actually do live training. And like a paint round, if I'm shooting or if I'm using it, and you can see who's actually hitting who, and they hurt.
Yeah,
Right? They leave a little bit of mark, and they make some noise. It's not like a discharge of a projectile, but they make some noise as well.
Yes, sir.
So it helps inoculate to maybe closer, it's a little bit closer to maybe a real situation. Would you agree with that?
Okay, yes, I do, sir, but please understand, airsoft can make a report, albeit not loud.
Yes, sir.
All right, they do have marking, what you would call marking BBs. We don't often use them because we found they fouled our weapons too much.
Yes, sir.
But there were times, especially in hostage rescue training, that we would use those.
And then also in the curriculum, it's impossible in a mobile class like yours, although effective, to do breaching of a door.
When doors were available, a lot of times the sponsoring agency would furnish the doors. The college did not. They didn't have anything that we could use.
But you wouldn't have a frame like that jury room behind you. I mean, so there's a difference between breaching, if this is the room, an inward swinging door, and then an outward swinging door, right? I mean, that's a big difference when you're trying to breach.
That is correct.
And with an outward swinging door, there's a lot of things to negotiate, meaning you need a tool to get into it.
Yes, sir.
Maybe a Halligan tool.
Yep.
Hooligan, Halligan, but some type of pry bar, and then you need a sledgehammer to get that in there, and then you have to pry it open, and you need 2 or 3 people to actually do that process on an outward swinging door.
It is complicated.
It's complicated, and because it's complicated, it's not safe. Right?
I would say essentially
Right? I
correct.
mean, so if you have somebody, if this is our room, if this is our door, it's an outward swinging door to Mr. Turner, and so there's someone in this room, and you have no idea where, and that's part of the training. There's someone waiting for you, wanting to cause harm or cause someone else harm. It's much more complicated because you're trying to pry and you're trying to negotiate this door and then get in and tactically see what you have to do when you peel off or confront the attacker. Correct?
Correct.
It makes it more dangerous for an officer.
And more difficult, yes.
More difficult, more dangerous, and that's why you should have, it's suggested to not do that alone.
That is correct.
And on an outward swinging door, one of the difficulties, I think it came out earlier, but I want to hear this from you. You can't just kick open a door on an outward swinging door because of the jam and the way it opens.
That is correct.
And so specifically, I want to talk about your training. And I'm not going to criticize it. I just want you to emphasize something for me, okay? I'm handing you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 10 for identification only. You recognize Defense Exhibit 10, do you not?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, you already know what I'm going to show you, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to stand behind you for a second. Is that okay?
That's fine.
So Defense Exhibit 10 is a copy of your curriculum, correct?
That is correct, sir.
And is it fair to say that it's a fair and accurate depiction of your curriculum? If you want to look through it.
I don't need to, sir. What specific question?
Judge, we move into evidence defense.
Submitted.
Thank you, Judge. So we can read here. A part of the course rationale is active shooter situations evolve quickly, and there is no way to anticipate their course or direction of action.
That is correct.
Unpredictable.
Yes, sir.
Right? It might start one way and then end up in a completely different way. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a yes, sir?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes.
You don't have to say yes, sir, to me, but just for her, you can say yes at least. And so, is it fair to say that you've never heard of an active shooting situation, especially a school shooting, that ever started with a crash?
You refer to a car crash.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that clarity.
I've never heard of
Yeah,
that.
because normally someone that is that sick in their brain and want to do something evil like that, they're very calculated. They get there unassuming because they don't want to give anybody notice to act and do the most amount of damage as they can. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yes.
they don't want to get in a crash. So the fact that there's a crash is not normal for an active shooting situation or a school shooting, right?
The only one, sir, that actually comes to mind is San Bernardino, and that was more terrorism than it was, but they did shoot quite a few people.
Right. And so on course objectives, you have survival tips, you have negotiating, because that's part of it, right? You have to negotiate with somebody if there's a hostage.
Okay, potentially such.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, you're trying to cover all the scenarios. Would you agree that there's a difference if you look at that board over here?
I saw it, sir.
Okay, man, you're on it. Okay, so then active shooters, you have I don't have my glasses, barricaded subjects, and then you have potential hostage situation, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and all those can stem from what you think is an active shooter initially, right?
It can initially start as an active shooter. That would be correct.
It says on negotiating overview, should the suspect or suspects barricade themselves and or take hostages, the first responders must be trained to de-escalate and control the situation through clear and concise negotiations.
It is called first responder negotiations, and I recommend all police officers take that course.
Okay. Your course?
Any course on negotiations,
I
sir.
thought you were trying to advertise. Okay.
No, sir, I'm retired. I
Okay,
farm.
I was making sure. Okay. And because of the different terrain, we feel officers need to train in these locations, in the actual location of a school, churches, movie theaters, strip malls. That's always the optimal position, is to train in the actual location, right?
That is our curriculum.
Yes, sir.
And sir, please understand, ladies and gentlemen, I am not, even now, I'm not allowed to disrespect, show anger, or say my training's better about somebody else's training. Please understand that.
I do.
All right? I felt that we had to train on all these other locations.
Yes, sir.
Other people do not.
And you're being very respectful. So respectfully, you can disagree with someone else's opinion on training.
Yes, sir.
And respectfully, they can disagree with yours.
I would hope they'd be respectful.
Yes,
on
I
mine.
do
Yes,
too.
sir.
I wouldn't tolerate it. But all I'm saying is these are just different people's opinions. These are suggestions.
Yes, sir.
They're not mandated. These are suggestions on tactics. Is that a fair statement?
Fair.
Okay. And on clearing entry, you have 1 man and 2 man, correct?
Yes, sir.
Under 1 man, it says CME, and that's you, right? Charlie Mike Enterprises?
Mm-hmm.
CME does not endorse nor encourage. What is that phrase?
No, sir, I don't have
I'm
it.
going to do it for you. It's okay.
Please read it. Yes.
CME does not endorse or encourage going it alone.
Okay. May I clarify this?
Of course, but is that what you?
Yes, that, and it says it's there.
And
All right.
You go on, and I'll ask you
All
some
right.
more questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, please understand that I don't ever endorse an officer doing something by himself. But if people are dying, then you've got to get in there and stop it. The first part of our entry curriculum, sir, in the manual, all right, in the drills that we do, it always starts with 1 man. Under the guise that, sir, that 1 man can make a difference.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Or 1 woman.
Or 1 woman.
Okay.
Yes.
So and then it says our goal in training first man entry and clearing is to give the officer the best chance for safety, survival, and success.
That is correct.
Because if the officer is not safe, then not only are the people he or she is trying to save won't survive, but the officer has to survive to make sure other people survive, right?
That is correct.
And that is how we define success. You have an alive officer that hopefully, God willing, can prevent more people from dying and have more live victims.
Yes.
Live people that have been put in danger, correct?
Correct.
Safety, survival, and success, right?
Yes, sir.
Two-man and greater numbers, these numbers significantly improves a first responder's odds for success.
Yes, sir.
So it's kind of a percentage thing, right? So the more the people, the more officers, first responders, the better the training and the better the conditioning through stress inoculation, then it raises the percentages of success, correct?
Yes, sir.
And part of success, and we're going to say, in a situation where there's multiple deaths, unfortunately, if we can identify where the first responders prevented further death, even though one loss it breaks, and it's not like it's a
Yes, sir.
success, but success meaning that you minimize the number of losses, correct?
You are attempting to minimize.
And so,
Yes, sir.
in your experience, if someone's in an office building and there's an active shooter in a certain aspect of an office building, and first responders move in, and they contain that person in one aspect of the cafeteria, the office building, that stopped them from going to floor 1, floor 2, floor 3, or other offices in that building if they contained them,
It is
correct?
now contained, probably not controlled, isolated. So,
Right. And those are different tactics, right? And another officer may have a different tactic versus your perspective. But what I'm saying is, if you can keep an active shooter in a certain area, and there's other people exposed, in my example, this office building, well then there's been, in big picture, there's been some success because the loss of life has been limited to this area versus the rest of the building.
that is
correct?
correct, sir.
And I think you said on direct examination, we talked about it, but I want to talk about something specifically you said on direct. You said that there are curriculums that say that you should wait for 2 or 3 guys to show up before you act.
Yes, sir, there is.
And you agreed with that at one point, but you have a different opinion.
Sir, I mean, in certain circumstances, sure, but I've never really agreed with it because I understand that an officer, almost every officer I know, if they're there and they can stop it, they're going to go for it.
And I agree with that, but you have to see what you need to stop before you can stop it, right?
Sir, it's based on, and you touched on it earlier,
Yes, sir.
Auditory.
Yes,
all
sir.
right, what you're hearing. And I do not know the circumstances very much on the outside that
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gonzales was dealing with. All right, but witnesses, the first few seconds, I mean, everybody has heard that witnesses are not good because they start thinking about it, they start changing their story. The first 30 seconds to a minute talking to a witness, that's usually fairly accurate.
Can I ask you this?
Yes,
And
please.
you're not relying on any studies to say that, right?
It's opinion, but
Okay,
there was a
well,
study out of
let's-
Northwestern University that talked about this.
Right, and there's plenty of opinions that talk about eyewitness testimony and how it's not reliable. You've heard of those studies too,
Oh,
right?
absolutely,
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
there's a lot of studies out there. So let's talk about this. But when you show up to a scene, and if the scene is done, it's different than showing up to a scene where someone is still under the excitement or the stress of whatever they've seen or dealt with, right?
Yes, sir, we touched on it earlier, or this morning, on fight or flight.
Yes, sir.
All
and,
right.
and so if you show up to an active scene, and an active scene means it has not been dealt with and it's still going on, right? If you show up to an active scene and a witness is frantic and yelling directions at you, you're not suggesting that an officer should automatically just take whatever they say and then run into
No,
carelessly.
sir.
Okay.
I'm not, but what they say if they're pointing, and I don't know the circumstances.
I
sir,
understand you don't.
But if they're pointing, if they're trying to give me some type of description, I'm going to try and roll with it
Sure.
until or unless something better comes out.
And so when you mean roll with it, you don't mean act on it immediately. You just mean assess it, right?
I'm going to start moving that direction, sir, based
Well,
on other information.
And you're going to give information to other potential officers. You have to communicate that, correct?
That is correct.
And if you get information that you realize as an officer, you show up at a scene and then someone frantically tells you something, and in your observation and orientation, you realize that's not accurate, right? It's not consistent with what you're seeing. Then you need to pause and get more information, right, before you put yourself in harm's way or
Would
somebody
depend
else.
on, well, yes, but it depends. How long am I going to pause for?
I understand. Well, we can go back and forth on
Yes,
every
sir.
situation.
I understand that, and I'm not trying to be adversarial.
You can be,
I'm
I
trying
don't
to
mind,
think this
but I
through.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is this doesn't happen in a vacuum. We're talking about safety and success, right? We want to make sure that the people are safe, but that includes the officer making a proper assessment, observing, orienting, making a decision, and then acting at some point, right?
Essentially, that is
Okay.
correct, yes.
And you said something, you talked about soft targets, right? That a school is a soft target?
Yes, sir.
Does the school not having locked doors make the school less soft or more soft?
Well, it makes it more soft.
Right. So doors that are not locked make that school more vulnerable.
That is correct.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Pass away, Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, sir. Just make sure I understand, if you have a witness that's hysterical but pointing and giving description, you said I roll with it?
I'm going to move. I'm going to go that direction. Get on the radio as I'm moving, talking to, trying to communicate with my people, letting them know this is my direction, this is what I've been told, this is what I am hearing, all of that, sir.
So you do take that information seriously?
I do, very.
And that's based on also on a Northwestern University study about how accurate that early information is.
Yes, sir. That came out in about, the 1990s. Forgive me, I don't recall exactly.
So it's been around a while.
Yes, sir.
And officer safety, that's what your program is all about.
Yes, sir.
How to get there as safely as possible.
As best, as fast, and as safe, yes.
But with an active shooter, there's something on the other side if you don't move quickly. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, yes.
And what's that?
People are dying.
So you have to move
I
quickly.
have to move quickly.
Time is of the essence.
Yes, sir, it is.
Every second.
Every second.
And the muscle memory on live rounds versus paintball versus airsoft. Remember that testimony?
Yes, sir.
Developing muscle memory and getting used to the stress. Whether you're using live rounds, paintballs, or airsoft, is the rule still move to the target?
Yes, sir, it is. And please understand, ladies and gentlemen, the fundamentals of marksmanship are the same. Whether you're using what I would call sim rounds, marking rounds, paintball, airsoft, the fundamentals, sight alignment, trigger, squeeze, and how you move, how you control your weapon. It's all the same.
And when you say there's an assumption that a police officer knows how to use their own sidearm, what are you saying about that?
They've been trained on that since the academy. They've been trained on it since the academy. If they're a smart officer, they go to the range once or twice a week and train and practice with their own weapon. They make sure that they are equipped with the best weapon possible. Granted, most cities issue what they want you to carry, but I'm going to make sure I know everything about that weapon that I can possibly know.
Okay. And so are police officers certified on their weapons, or do they have to prove their worth on that weapon?
Unfortunately, we certify only once a year. Qualified, we call it. It's not really certification. But once a year, people need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, qualification isn't training. It is the end of result of training. Makes sense?
Okay. But as far as training, officers can go as often as they want.
They may have to pay for it out of pocket, but yes, sir.
Pass the witness.
And so you talk about your active shooter course, that's 40 hours. May I give you a hypothetical?
Please.
If you had a loved one that needed a very important surgery and the surgeon came in and said, I've had 40 hours in this surgery of training, would you want to use that surgeon or not?
Certainly not,
Okay.
sir. I need to qualify my answer on something that,
Well, I know you're going to recommend more
no,
training.
but it was another training company that pushed that we can't do more than 40 hours on
Got
that.
it.
That's where I was going, so please.
Yeah, I got it. But I'm making the point about 40 hours. 40 hours is not the holy grail of
No,
amount of
sir,
hours.
that's
to
why it's
train.
incumbent upon the officer to train on his own, too.
Right, and that's why when it comes to shooting, you said if the officer's smart, once or twice a week they're going to go to the range.
If you can.
If you can. And so that has to do with muscle memory, stress inoculation, and all the other things in doing with active shooting. 40 hours is just the beginning, not the end, correct?
That is correct.
And you talk about time of the essence. Since every second matters, as the government asked you, locked doors give officers time to get there, correct?
Give me a scenario, sir, because
Let's
I'm not
talk
really...
about that office building.
Okay.
Someone's going into an office building or to another school, because I know you don't know about the facts of this case, right? You have not reviewed anything. So let's say we're going into another school, and there's someone that has bad intentions, active. There's a person with a weapon that can do a lot of damage, and they're coming to the outside of the school to get in.
Yes, sir.
If that door was locked,
If it is locked...
time
yes,
is
sir.
of the essence. If somebody's calling the police, the fact that that person, that monster, can't get into that school, that gives police time to converge and maybe engage the shooter, correct?
Hopefully, yes, sir.
But what I'm saying is,
No, I'm following you.
You want a
And
lot.
yes, sir. Hopefully, that's going to give me enough time to, as an officer, to move in there and neutralize it.
well, time is of the essence. So the more time that shooter is outside the building, the better it is for law enforcement, right?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah. And if law enforcement was outside, looking at with line of sight, that would even be better. If that door is locked and then there's officers that had line of sight on this guy, that would be better too. For the officer to be able to react.
I see
and
what you're
respond.
saying, yes.
And let's say the person got inside the building for whatever way. If the individual classrooms were locked, that time is of the essence. And that would give law enforcement more time to catch up or to find out where this person is at to engage this shooter, correct?
Correct.
Now, when it comes to stress, you said something, and again, please don't take this as a criticism. I know you had limited things you can use when you have a mobile course. Because you were asked, I think Mr. Turner asked you about, does the curriculum discuss how to handle fear? And you say, yes, we discuss handling fear. Do you remember testifying to that?
Yeah, that is correct.
And I believe your answer was, you teach them to take deep breaths.
That's one of the ways to get your heart rate back under control.
Yeah, so the only way to handle fear is to put yourself in fearful situations. Is that a fair statement?
Enough, that's fair enough, yes.
That's stress inoculation. You
Yes.
inoculate yourself little by little. I mean, we do it in combat sports also. You do light sparring, touch sparring, then you do light sparring, and then you take then you go at it.
Yes, sir.
And now it's a full stress inoculation. You're in. But you inoculate yourself little by little to that full contact fighting.
And in
Similar
military,
to
they
this.
call it desensitization.
You
yes.
desensitize yourself to contact or to fearful situations or stress, and that prepares you for that. And again, you have to do what you have to do. This course didn't cover stuff like that.
In lecture, as best we could.
Yes, sir.
In the field, no, we did not.
Pass the witness, Judge.
Just one question. If a door is locked, it can give more time to an officer to neutralize the threat, correct?
Correct. Yes.
That is if an officer is moving toward the gunfire, correct?
Correct.
Whether a door is locked or not, if an officer is not moving toward the gunfire, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Say that again, sir. Yes, I think so, but say that
Whether
again.
a door is locked or not, if you have an officer that's not moving toward the gunfire, it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't help. Yeah, so yes, it doesn't matter.
That's what.
And an officer has to know where the threat is to move towards it, correct?
That certainly helps, yes.
Pass the witness, Judge.
No further question.
Recall.
No, Your Honor.
No, Judge.
Okay, sir, thank you very much. You are excused. Once again, the rule was invoked, so we'd appreciate it if you don't talk about the case until you're aware it's over.
Understood.
Thank you.